Tracy Bogert, Hector Gomez, Ralph Balderas, Luisa Alanis. Good morning on a Friday. Woo!
Now, Chris Duel.
Friday has arrived. Welcome in officially to the weekend, the final Friday of June in the year 2021. That's a little bit crazy. June flying by. I think 2021 is flying by. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. If you stayed up for that Texas Longhorns College World Series game, you stayed up maybe later than expected. It started 3 hours and 39 minutes later than expected due to rain and lightning. But long as the Longhorns win, and they did 6-2, Shannon Salty Sweeney, you must be one happy Longhorn with your Hook'em t-shirt on this Friday morning.
Yeah, I'm super thrilled. I'm very glad they got that game in last night because the pitching rotation probably would have changed had they've had to play today. This morning they would have played at 9 a.m. And it would not have been in favor of Texas. Virginia was probably going to go with one of their better guys after he had gotten some rest, and then of course they would have had to turn around and play Mississippi State. So they would have had a doubleheader today. So they get to rest this morning and take on Mississippi State tonight at 6. Hopefully that game doesn't get rained out because I know they are expecting some more rain and storms in the area. But of course, it wouldn't be the College World Series without a couple rain delays.
True. And a big one last night. And, Texas, obviously Mississippi State in that first game last Sunday. Mississippi State with the 21 strikeouts, just a very formidable team. But Texas just lost that game by 1 run, 2-1. And if you think about it, had they won that game, it would be Texas right now in this position and Mississippi State having to win 1 versus Texas instead of Texas having to win 2. But either way, you were going to play Mississippi State today or tomorrow, and you needed to beat them at least once. The way it has played out, you now need to beat them twice. So, one game at a time. No Saturday game against Mississippi State exists yet until Texas gets this one done tonight. So hopefully Texas takes care of business. Other than that Mississippi State game, Texas has played very, very well lately, has put up runs. So we will see. Just got to find a way to get beyond that Mississippi State pitching. And obviously, going into this game tonight, Mississippi State realizing they're playing with house money. But if you beat them in this one, then you put them on the brink for a Saturday game as well. Meanwhile, Shannon, the LA Clippers, I equate them and Kawhi, even though he didn't play last night and people are not expecting him necessarily to play in this series. I think all bets are off. I equate the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard to the Terminator in the Terminator movies. You think they're dead, and they're not. They're not dead until the movie's over. And this movie is not yet over. Last night, the LA Clippers defeat the Phoenix Suns 106-92. Chris Paul came back, but he was not that effective. The Suns in general, obviously, you lose a game like that, not that effective. Your thoughts on the Suns' inability to take the 3-0 lead? Obviously, they still lead 2-1 in this series, but this series, like the Dallas Mavericks series in the first round, like the second round for the Clippers as well, it started out an 0-2 hole for the Clippers, and they fought their way back in and won those first 2 series. So Clippers doing what they had to do last night to stay in this series, and that's get a win at home at Staples Center.
Yeah, I don't think we can be too surprised that they were able to snag one game in this series, especially that first home game in what feels like a must-win situation when you're already down 2-0 in the conference finals. And then, we were questioning yesterday what Devin Booker would look like coming out. He did don a mask, and I think it may have affected him a little bit. I mean, that looking at the stats on this game, I mean, they're all pretty similar, other than they just lacked in shooting on the Sun side compared to the Clippers, and Devin Booker only 15 points last night, which is far from what did he have triple double in that
He had
last
something like
game?
48 the other night.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
48
mean,
and 11.
from that
Yeah.
to 15, I think that's I don't want to put everything on the mask, but I'm sure it's very different, right? Your vision, I'm sure you've got like the lip of the mask that has to I'm sure it's uncomfortable and just different. And then, you throw Chris Paul back into the mix after you've been playing lights out. Not to say that Chris Paul is the problem, but it does add a wrinkle into the situation that wasn't there before. So I think they'll get it back together. I'm not too worried. It's not like they got blown out, and they held it pretty close throughout most of the game up until the Clippers ended up pulling away.
Yeah, you look at the numbers of Devin Booker and Chris Paul, and their lack of performance really, I think, was the difference here. And moving forward, you don't expect them to have multiple games like this or most games like this. Devin Booker, 5 of 21 from the field in 40 minutes. Chris Paul, 5 of 19 from the field in 39 minutes. As you mentioned, very similar. Paul and Booker each wind up with 15 points. They each had a minus 15 on the plus minus, which was very similar there as well. Chris Paul with 12 assists. So he was certainly doing his job as a distributor. 5 assists for Devin Booker, 5 rebounds for Devin Booker. But yeah, I would not, and I agree with you. I mean, you play a certain way your whole life, then all of a sudden you get your nose completely whacked and disjointed and darn near broken, and you've got to play with that mask. That's got to be a difference, and that's got to be a hindrance. He had a great thought, or he had a great line. Devin Booker, before the game, they quoted him. They said, "Is the mask going to affect your vision on the court?" And he said, "All I need to see is the basket." Very confident, very cocky. Once again, I loved it when I heard that quote. I felt really good about it, but of course, his performance, 5 of 21 from the field, does not suggest that he was just fine with the mask. So moving forward, we'll see. Game 4 will be Saturday. Game 4 Saturday, 8 p.m. on ESPN between those two teams.
Yeah, he had some great driving kicks, and he had his moments. It wasn't all there. And again, that mask, every time they showed his face up close, you could see how the breathing and the foggy in there. I don't know what they need to do to whatever they use with NFL players' helmets. They need to get for him. Maybe that'll help him out a little bit with his vision.
Yeah, and I'm sure now that he's played a game in that mask, now issues like that, like fog and whatever else was hindering him with the mask, now hopefully, and you would assume with experts working on the problem, they can solve those issues. Lots of, once again, this has been going on all week. Things going on not only on the court in the NBA, but off the court in the NBA. Big development yesterday involving your Dallas Mavericks the day after the Boston Celtics named their new coach, Ime Udoka, the former Spurs coach, most recently Udoka, an assistant with the Brooklyn Nets. Now we hear yesterday that Jason Kidd, in pretty much all certainty from what we're hearing from reports, will be the next head coach of the Dallas Mavericks. Of course, Jason Kidd had a history with Dirk Nowitzki as a player there in Dallas. He's very familiar with that franchise. He's very familiar with Mark Cuban as a resident. He's very familiar with the Dallas area from the time he spent there. As a Mavericks fan, Shannon, how do you feel about this apparent new hire?
Well, not only is he familiar, he's a familiar champion, Chris. Let's not forget. And Rick Carlisle, also who took that Pacers job yesterday, even said that he'd love to have Kidd coach Luka. That he thinks that they'd make a great pairing. It's weird. Like, he's coached the Bucks and he's coached the Nets, and he was relieved of those duties. But you look at those teams now, and even looking at the Bucks, I think it's hard to say that he didn't have a small piece in maybe helping build that foundation that they have now. The Nets, obviously, he did not have the Durants and the Hardens and the Kyrie Irvings, but I like it, and I think there is something to be said about a player coach coming back to a place that he played and saw success, because he's gonna win the fan base over immediately. There's not that hump that they have to climb, especially right now when there's supposedly all that turmoil going on inside the front office, and fans are unhappy about that. I think that'll give them something to smile about. So I like it because I can't think of another name right now that I'd prefer over him either.
That's always a good place to be. And you mentioned his stints in Milwaukee and Brooklyn not exactly working out, but as you document, both teams playing very well. And of course, he did play for the Nets when they were the New Jersey Nets, but that different ownership, I do believe. I think Prokhorov, the Russian, was not the owner at the time. So I think what's good about this move for Jason Kidd, clearly Mark Cuban knows him well. Mark Cuban clearly, to make this hire, has confidence in him. So it does, and more so than going to Brooklyn and playing for the Nets, this kind of feels to me like a homecoming of sorts for Jason Kidd. So it does seem like an environment that he can succeed in. And my gosh, you look at a team that had a really good chance to beat the Clippers. We just talked about them going up 2-0 on the Clippers in the first round of the playoffs. Obviously, Luka Doncic will be the centerpiece of that Mavericks team for at least the next 10 years, barring injury. Although we have heard most recently Doncic not exactly happy with some members of that front office staff, but certainly for Jason Kidd, you can go take over a team that is god-awful with no key franchise player. That's not the case here. Jason Kidd stepping in to a playoff team, a team with a really good player, and I think a team with a really good future.
Right, and a team that has kind of been lacking with those outside shooters and point guards. I mean, JJ Redick, we grabbed him, but he was hurt most of the time that he was with the Mavericks. So I don't know if he's the key that maybe was missing throughout the playoffs, but I think Jason Kidd, being the point guard he was, will be an asset to those other players to Luka needs around him, because again, he can't do it all, especially when Porzingis decides to take nights off.
Something else we are going to get into today, another off the court issue in the NBA. Scottie Pippen, who apparently he has a new bourbon and he's got a new hair.
He's talking.
Yeah. He did an interview with GQ magazine, including a photo spread, and he's got a very cool new hairstyle. I am digging. If Scottie Pippen had this hairstyle when he played for the Chicago Bulls and when he played in the NBA, I think he would have been regarded differently than with his, kind of tight to the scalp crew cut that he had. And we'll post a photo. In fact, we do have a photo of Scottie Pippen if you look at our show tweet documenting today's show. But we'll tweet out a full-scale photo of Scottie Pippen. But Scottie Pippen, in his interview to GQ magazine, pops off about Ben Simmons. He is critical of Doc Rivers for how he utilized Ben Simmons. And then he goes after Kevin Durant in that interview. So Scottie Pippen suddenly a little bit outspoken now in this GQ magazine article. And Shannon will certainly talk a lot about this morning as well.
Yeah, it's almost, he still seems a little salty from the Last Dance docuseries, where there were some things said about him that he didn't quite agree with. And then interesting that what did you say he's releasing? Is it bourbon, you said?
I think it's a bourbon. Yeah, he's. I'll check that. But the writer who tweeted out some of his comments said, "Yeah, we sat down enjoying some of his new bourbon when we." And in the photo of him with the cool new hairstyle, he's holding a glass of bourbon and he's sipping some bourbon.
In that Last Dance, right? I mean, Jordan had his tequila next to him the entire time, and I'm wondering if the bourbon was already a thought in Scottie's mind in watching that back, or if he is somehow upset with Jordan because he couldn't brand his bourbon during his interviews.
And you're so right, and I was getting that feeling as well. Scottie Pippen's legacy, I think, was hurt by The Last Dance because they really documented that moment when he refused to go into the game when he could have helped his team in a key situation, which I think kind of, we always thought of Scottie Pippen as, the Robin to Michael Jordan's Batman on the great Chicago Bulls dynasty. But I think that The Last Dance kind of, to some extent, he's Scottie Pippen. He's got all those rings, all that hardware. You say his name, people know who he is. But I will bring up, he the way he talked about Ben Simmons and Doc Rivers was one thing. Then he goes after Kevin Durant, and we'll get into this. And Durant had a great comeback on Twitter that we'll read to you coming up as well. But former NBA head coach George Karl tweeted out a great point, saying that, back in the day when Scottie Pippen was playing, do you think Magic Johnson or Larry Bird would be going after Scottie Pippen? One of the stars of the game in Pippen's era. It was an interesting thought. And the answer to that question was no, they wouldn't, because there's a certain protocol. And it made me think of Tom Brady, who, tonight and this weekend, we're going to find out maybe on the LeBron James show on HBO, what quarterback he went after. There's a certain protocol. I don't think you go after contemporaries, at least on a star level, whether you're Scottie Pippen or Tom Brady. We'll get into that coming up as well. Your chance to win tickets this morning, your final chance to win tickets to Coheed and Cambria, The Used, and Meet Me at the Altar, coming September 3rd to Circuit of the Americas. In about a half an hour, we'll speak with Coach A, Paul Alexander. We'll talk all things NFL, all things sports. Speaking of the NFL, top of the 8 o'clock hour, James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame going to join us. Also coming up, we will meet our soundscape stylist, Mr. Dave Ayler. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. I am Chris. Thank you for hanging out with us on this Friday morning as we will traverse the world of sports and get you caught up on everything you need to know. Coming up, your high five play of the day and a whole lot more. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. Clint Proctor, welcome in. Jason Garcia, welcome. Dave Emilio Castanuela, welcome. Tracy Bogert, Jason Paniagua, Ralph Balderas, John Williams. Hello, everybody on Facebook. Got to do some editing here real quick. Okay, thanks. Yeah, it's a strange day for electronics. Your email, that Echo, it's interesting. I mean, and it's not just an echo, it's like a scratchy echo. Okay. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Neil. Neil Cole, that's very nice of you. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. We appreciate all of you who hang out with us in the morning. Michelle Johnson from Marysville, Kansas, welcome in. Yeah, Tracy, I'm with you. And, hopefully the Astros just keep on winning. Gosh, 11 in a row last night. They beat the Detroit Tigers 12-3. They're winning, and they're winning big lately. Clint Proctor, welcome in. Jason Garcia, we are on the verge of history. Congratulations to the Montreal Canadiens as they advance to the Stanley Cup Finals. They could win the cup and bring Lord Stanley back to Canada. Now, Jason, and again, that's a big deal. I know for Canada, but why do you support that? I mean, I'm very nationalistic when it comes to things like this. I want America. I want the American teams to take it from Canada. I don't want it going back to Canada. But I'm sure they will all be very happy. Little DJ Khaled, Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. And Shannon, Dave Ayler, our soundscape stylist, will introduce him in a moment here. Tells me DJ Khaled has a Miami connection. Is that correct?
I don't know. He may live there. But
Okay.
I feel like he's a Miami guy. He has a
vibe
about him. I'm not sure.
Well, and connects.
Posty is on that song, and if you're a Cowboys fan, you have to be a Post Malone fan. I don't make the rules.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for identifying Posty as Post Malone. As when you say Posty, I'm like, Post cereal is okay. But no, then you went Post Malone. It's like, okay, cool. I'm good with that. And the reason we mentioned Miami, of course, our hearts and our thoughts and our prayers go out to Miami, that horrible situation in the Miami area where that beachfront condominium collapsed. We're still, last time I heard, one officially dead, but the numbers are going to skyrocket. Reportedly, there's like 99 people missing at last count. There will be a press conference this morning. And in fact, in a moment, you'll hear some heartwarming news involving, some of the help in the recovery and the search and rescue that's going on there in the Miami area. Before we go to our high five play of the day, let's welcome him in. And we got all kinds of fun things this morning. Technically, Dave Ayler, our soundscape stylist, your company email wasn't working at the top of the show. I think you got that working. We've got a couple of technical glitches with some of the mechanics of the broadcast this morning, but we're hanging with it. You're doing a great job, sir.
Yeah, we'll make it through. There's some problems, and it's Friday, so expect things to go awry on Fridays.
Maybe the technical term is Mercury is in retrograde. Is that possible? I don't even know. I'm not an astrologer, but whenever a bunch of things go wrong, I hear, wow, Mercury must be in retrograde.
I just look at it as that it's Friday, and we're all going to earn our money today.
And wasn't it yesterday like the supermoon or something?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, okay, maybe that's it.
Because Krispy Kreme was doing special donuts.
That's right. Strawberry moon donuts.
My fat self was like, that sounds silly. Special donuts?
Very nice. Krispy Kreme. They're so brilliant. We've talked about it before, Shannon. Oh, you can have one for free. They're just like drug dealers. Yeah, come on in. Yeah, we'll give you one for free. And then you want more and more.
Ironically,
They know.
when you eat one of those glazed donuts, you get around the mouth. It's very similar to That's a great. You're spot on, sir.
Very good. In a moment, the high five play of the day, just to set the table here and let you know what's coming. 8 o'clock hour, your final chance of the week to win tickets to see Coheed and Cambria, along with The Used and Meet Me at the Altar. That's September 4th at Circuit of the Americas. That's going to be a big show. Next half hour, just after 7 o'clock, Coach A, Paul Alexander, talking NFL, talking sports. We'll see how he feels about Scottie Pippen and his criticism of current NBA players. James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame going to join us just after 8 o'clock. Also in the 7 o'clock hour, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. This day in sports history, and for Spurs fans, I think you could argue maybe June 25th, the biggest day in sports history. Not one, but two huge things happened for the Spurs on June. We're still in June 25th in Spurs history. So sports history, sports birthdays, and a whole lot more all morning long. We'll talk Astros. They are on fire and on a huge roll. Texas Longhorns we talked about, but we'll talk more. Big win late last night after a 3-hour and 39-minute rain and lightning delay. The Texas Longhorns stay alive in the College World Series. They beat Virginia 6-2. We'll talk NBA playoffs, what's going on with NBA coaching moves as well. Lots going on in the world of sports as we embark upon this final weekend in the month of June. But right now, let's do it. The high five play of the day. And high five, not just the name of the segment, but a cool place that you can hang out in the Austin area. In fact, not one, but two cool locations you can hang out in the Austin area. And I know Austin FC in action in Columbus against the Columbus Crew on Sunday night, Shannon. So high five, also a great place for watch parties and to watch sports.
Yes, an excellent place to take in any of your favorite sporting events, teams. Of course, lots of fans still without tickets to get into those Austin FC games. So a great option, head over to High Five. And during halftime, try your hand at axe throwing, hit up the arcade. If you're out at Lakeway, play a game of laser tag. You can also bowl, and there's plenty of TVs as well at those bowling lanes. In fact, if you're at the Lakeway location, they've got the giant screens at the end of the bowling lane. So the biggest TV you can probably find to watch those games on would be at that location. All right, sir, you sent this to me. I admit I don't really watch the news, local or national, just not into it. So I was late to the party of realizing what had gone on yesterday in Miami with that building collapse. Horrible, horrible news. But the good news that did come out of it, the reason we're talking about it during High Five, is that Heat player Tyler Hero, as well as some coaching assistants, they were working out when this happened, and they heard of the accident and that they could be of assistance. So they headed over and brought supplies and things for first responders. We're also seeing that the Miami Marlins also took part. They brought meals out to the first responders and other supplies that could be helpful and help dig through the rubble. I mean, this is, in a time of need, especially he's just now in the off season, Mr. Tyler Hero, and the Marlins, of course, in the middle of their season, and taking the time to help out the community in any way that they can. Is absolutely fantastic, and you love to see it from your star athletes who aren't typically from the area, right? They come in to do their sport, and a lot of them make those places their homes, and it's nice to see them out in the community. Unfortunately, it was for an incident like this, but still great nonetheless to see them helping out.
Yeah, and I just love, both those teams, members of the Miami Heat, as you mentioned, and the Florida Marlins. We live in different cities, and sometimes there are disasters, and this is certainly a disaster, and the numbers are going to increase today, and it's going to get worse, involving this beachfront condo that collapsed in the early morning hours yesterday. But, how many people, whether you're an athlete or not, how many people, when something horrible happens in your city, in your community, and you hear about it on the news, how many people go, okay, how can I help? What can I do? And certainly Tyler Hero did this. And I want to say the names of the Miami Heat assistant coaches who joined Tyler Hero. That would be Chris Quinn and Eric Glass. Those are assistant coaches. And, they got a hold of a truck. They loaded it up with water. They loaded it up with food and other essentials to help first responders, to help residents there, where there were a lot of people displaced who lived in those condos, who can't live in them anymore now. And same deal with the Miami Marlins. It's one thing to live in a community, and in this case, to be either athletes or involved with a big sports team in the community. And then it's another to step up and help. And they all did. So a huge high five to basketball player Tyler Hero, to those assistant coaches on the Miami Heat and the Miami Marlins staff and players who helped out as well. Just very, very cool. And I would imagine, to the people going through it, the residents, family members. I heard this morning driving in, Shannon, there's something like 99 people unaccounted for right now. And some of those hopefully are people who weren't in the building at the time. They have a manifest of residents and people who lived in that condo, and there are 99 people that they have not been in contact with. Hopefully some maybe were out of town or not there, but sadly I think the numbers are going to go up. They're expected to go up in a big way throughout the day today and moving forward. But I heard that, there are some families who have lost and are feared to have lost generations of family members, as in grandparents, parents, and kids. I heard there were some people who came down and were staying in that condo who were from out of town, who were bringing their kids to a baseball camp in Miami. And for, somehow there were, some housing and some openings to rent these condos to, stay for a few weeks and send your kid to baseball camp in Miami. So we're going to hear some amazing human tragedies and sadness coming out of this. But again, and it's just a horribly sad and tragic story, but just a little bit of light shining on the Miami Heat and the Florida Marlins for stepping up and helping out here.
Yeah, and a lot of times in sport, we talk about sports hate, right? And we can get caught up in it. But when something like this happens, the allegiances, no matter what they are, for your favorite team, your favorite sport, they go out the window when something like this happens. So kudos to them.
Yeah.
What an appropriate name, Tyler Hero. A hero.
Yeah. I've always loved that name, Tyler Hero. They've also got a guy, I believe, on the Miami Heat named Duncan Robinson. And as soon as I heard that guy's name, he's got to be a Spur. Come on, Duncan Robinson.
Yeah. Or raised
Spurs
that way, right?
Go get that guy. Yeah, and let's get a photo with Tim Duncan on his left side and David Robinson on his right side. But yeah. So anyway, our thoughts, our prayers, our love, our hope with the people of Miami and the people involved in that sad, horribly catastrophic and tragic situation. All right. Houston Astros, Shannon, my goodness gracious. They just keep on winning. Sorry, haters. We just got to, every time we mention the Astros doing well, I know there's some haters out there, and I know this is tough on you, but the Astros win 11 in a row. They beat the Detroit Tigers on the road in Detroit last night, 12-3. They are now one shy of the team record, 12 in a row. Maybe they get that today. They did that for the first time in 1999. They equaled that in 2018. The Astros have won 11 in a row. They've won 12 out of their last 13. They've won 15 out of their last 17. They continue to score big runs, 12 runs. Yesterday, they scored more runs than any other team in Major League Baseball. They've got the best record in the American League. They've got the best run differential in Major League Baseball, winning by 9 runs. Yesterday is just going to further extend that. Among the scoring yesterday, late in the game, Yordan Alvarez, who played at Round Rock, played a lot at Round Rock, came up, made his name at Round Rock before catching on with the Houston Astros. A grand slam for Yordan Alvarez. And, I know it's only June, and I don't even want to think about peaking too early. But, Shannon, I am loving what the Houston Astros are doing lately.
Yeah, it's looking good, and we talk about how long the season is, but I think of the NBA, right? And that season's obviously not as long as the MLB, but they talk, we would talk about like load management in the middle of the season. These games aren't as interesting because they're doing these things to save their players, or they're not caring because it's too early in the season. But then when you get down to it later in the season, those games seem to have mattered more, right? When you're essentially playing for your life or for a play-in spot or whatever it may be. So right now, as we're almost halfway to the middle of this MLB season, but as many wins as you can string together right now are only going to help you in the end. So I'm very much here for it as an Astros fan. You mentioned the what you said 12 is the highest streak they've
The
had.
team record 12 in a row. They did it in 99 and in 2018. So yeah, one more and they would equal the team record for consecutive victories in the regular season. Two more and they'd set a record. They'd set a team record.
I mean, that's pretty cool when you think about it.
Yeah.
And it's baseball. Like they play damn near every day.
Yeah. Well, and this was, they were in Baltimore. This was the first game in Detroit. So they won in Baltimore on Thursday, had to hop on a plane. And I know all sports teams do this, and it's part of the, part of what you do in baseball. But, to win again, to hop on the plane in Baltimore, fly to Detroit, first game of a series at Detroit against the Tigers, and they win again. And, oh, by the way, they've been doing most, if not all of this win streak without Alex Bregman. One of their biggest hitters and one of their bigger stars is banged up and out with injury. So, 11 in a row now, and you're doing this without Bregman, who will be back eventually and just make this team even better. And Shannon, I've been talking about this. The bats are there for the Astros this year. They're batting as well as they did in 2017 when they won the World Series, or at any time. And oh, by the way, that's something else for the haters. The haters cite, banging trash cans. You guys cheated. Well, right now, all eyes are on the Houston Astros and a lot of scrutiny on the Astros. So as much as you haters may hate the Houston Astros, they're doing this apparently and almost certainly without the cheating that went on in 2017 and the sign stealing and banging on trash cans. So,
and without George Springer.
Yes.
Who a lot
yeah.
thought he was
Boom.
Mr. Bat, right?
Yeah.
Springer dingers.
Yeah.
And they're still carrying on just fine. I do still.
Yeah. Springer gone and Bregman out of the lineup with injury. So huge point. So hopefully they will keep a good thing going, and hopefully. And you alluded to this, Shannon, just now, and I agree with you. People go, well, it's June and it's a long season. But as always, these games in June count just as much as in the dog days of August and, headed into September. So, you rack them up now. You win when you can win. And Astros will be in action again tonight, 6:10 first pitch at Detroit. Framber Valdez will be on the mound for the Astros as they go for 12 in a row tonight.
So get to high five so you can watch both the Astros and the Longhorns play.
Yes, at pretty much the same time.
A lot of people don't have the double TV set up.
That's a beautiful thing. And I love how you told me at the one location, they've got the huge TV at the bowling alley. So you can bowl and watch sports.
It's like 5 giant screens all across the back wall. It's incredible.
That is beautiful. I got to get there. I got to get up I-35, get to Austin, get to High Five. Darn it. It's on my list. All right. Coming up, Coach A, Paul Alexander, always thoughtful, always compelling, and entertaining. We will pick the brain of Coach A, Paul Alexander, coming up. Shannon Salty Shakedown, sports history, biggest day in Spurs history, in my opinion. We'll tell you why, sports birthdays, and more. It's the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Tracy, you make an interesting point there. I would agree with you. How people pick and choose, when to speak out, when to grieve. And, all life is precious. Something here. I'm editing some audio as we go. Let's see. Hanging out with family and friends, going to sporting events like All right. I need one more of these. Michelle, it is 6:00 tonight against Mississippi State. They have to win that one. To advance to another game against Mississippi State, which would be on Saturday. And I think last night was ESPN2, and ESPN on the big one. Vanderbilt, North Carolina State is 1:00 on ESPN2, but Texas, Mississippi State will be on ESPN 6:00 tonight. So you've got Astros at 6:10 first pitch, and you got Longhorns as well at 6. Yes.
We kind of figured out. She's in a different studio and it sounds fine now.
Okay.
She has to set everything up again in that studio.
Okay.
So if she's not back on StreamYard, just start putting the call without her.
Okay.
And I told her just to yell down the line. I've got her down in the queue, but she's ready.
So I don't throw to her until I see her on StreamYard.
Yeah, or she'll tell me when she's ready because she doesn't know if there's a camera.
Okay.
Just I'll let you know when she's ready.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me know.
Happy first championship anniversary.
That's right. And I saw Tim Duncan was selected on this day, which I didn't realize they both happened on the same day.
Really?
According to On This Day in Sports History, on this day in 1997, the Spurs selected Tim Duncan with the first pick out of Wake Forest. So
Wow.
2 years to the day, you select him in 97, 2 years to that day, which all these years, I never knew that. I never knew that the day was, but there's a website that says onthisday.com, and it's on this day in sports history. And those were the two. Yeah.
We were just playing Pat's thing.
Oh, that's great.
And it reminded me of when me and John Lyle went downtown and we were going to walk from South all the way up Manhattan.
Yeah.
And I got so fucked up drunk that I forgot that I was supposed to do sports that afternoon.
Oh, that's funny. and famously, apparently you went on with Andy Everett at like what?
About 1:30.
Yeah, yeah.
Said we're motherfucking world champs.
That's great. That was Charlie Parker wishing me a happy Spurs first championship day. Yep, Jason Paniagua. Yeah, he famously, and I think it was like one in the morning San Antonio time, and Andy Everett was talking to people in New York after the Spurs beat the Knicks, and somebody handed Charlie the phone, who was on the air live with Andy, and Charlie had had a few cocktails at this point, because it was 2 a.m. New York time. Spurs had just won their first championship. So Charlie grabs the phone. Hey, Andy, we're MFing NBA champions. And Andy goes, you're on the air. You're on Spurs React. People were happy. Paul Alexander going to join us here in a moment. Moment. John Williams, my mom wants to know why you are hating on Canada and Canadians. I'm not hating on them, John. I just prefer America. I'm an American. I'm an American. I would just rather, if a team from the United States of America is playing a team from Canada, it's just like, if the San Antonio Spurs are playing the Milwaukee Bucks. I like the Milwaukee Bucks. They're nice. The people in Milwaukee are nice, but I pull for my hometown. I pull for my home state, and I pull for my home country. That's all. I mean, I've been to Canada. Canadians are very nice people, generally. Although there was a horrible story. I won't get into it. Came out of Canada this week. Why delve in the negative? Huh? Paul is there?
Paul's ready and still waiting on chat.
Okay. And just let me know. John Williams, I'm Canadian American. Well, then you uniquely can pull for both. I'm American American. I'm American. I can't imagine living in Canada in the winter. I mean, I have a hard enough time in San Antonio in the winter. One of my biggest issues is cold. It's got to be so darn cold. Okay, sir. Yeah, there you go, Jason. That's reason enough not to like Canada. Thank you. Not a fan. And he seems so non-Texan to me.
Now, Chris Duel.
The final weekend of the month of June. And then you know what the next weekend is. That'll be 4th of July weekend. I just say, just start celebrating now. Now. Celebrate America. Celebrate sports. A great sports weekend is upon us. The Longhorns are alive in the College World Series. They go at it tonight, 6 o'clock on the 4-letter network. They will try to stay alive and take on Mississippi State. I wonder if Dak Prescott will do what Peyton Manning did, and that's go support his alma mater in Omaha when the Longhorns faced Tennessee earlier in the week. One Peyton Manning was in the stands. We'll see if I don't want Dak to be there supporting Mississippi State tonight, so hopefully he won't. Because I like Dak, I just don't want him going against the Longhorns. Speaking of the Longhorns, this man for quite some time did television in Austin, Texas, covered the Longhorns. In fact, did the coaches show on television. He has done it all in the world of broadcasting, on television, on radio, as a reporter, as an anchor, as a talk show host, as an executive. Now has a great website that is perfect for our time. It's called Radically Rational. We'll have him tell us more about that before he gets out of here as well. But we love talking sports. We love talking life with Coach A, Paul Alexander. Paul, how you doing on this Friday?
Yes, good morning. Very well. Hope you are too. And yeah, you're right about the 4th of July. Let the celebration start right now. So always look forward to Friday, and I always look forward to talking to you guys.
It is easily one of the big highlights of our week. Shannon's going to join us in a moment. We're having a little bit of a technical issue, but it's just about to be fixed. So Shannon will jump in here in just a second. But Paul, I want to start with this. And it has to do with Tom Brady, and it has to do with Scottie Pippen. And I think they're both related. Scottie Pippen just gave an interview to GQ magazine, and in it, I think, he was critical of Ben Simmons. He was in his play for the Sixers in the playoffs just now. He was critical of Doc Rivers and the way Doc Rivers utilized Ben Simmons. And then he was critical of Kevin Durant, just kind of dogging Kevin Durant. And George Karl, former NBA coach and an original San Antonio Spur, George Karl tweeted this out yesterday about Scottie Pippen. He tweeted, "Can you imagine if Magic or Larry Bird or one of those guys called out Scottie publicly like this in his prime? The greats should celebrate the greats and lift each other up." That's from George Karl, and I tend to agree with it. And on a similar note, Paul, this weekend, in fact, I think it drops tonight, LeBron James' HBO show is going to feature Tom Brady, and we saw a clip this week when Tom Brady was talking about becoming a free agent, and he was going to maybe go to different teams, wound up in Tampa Bay, of course, and he was talking about a team that was sticking with its quarterback, and apparently in the clip, Tom Brady goes, "You're going to stick with that blankety blank?" which seems a little off-brand for Tom Brady. Your thoughts, Paul Alexander, on Scottie Pippen dogging other stars like Kevin Durant and Tom Brady apparently going after other starting quarterbacks in the NFL?
Well, I think the common denominator here, and I try to make allowances for people's personalities and their particular backgrounds and their particular experiences, and maybe there is some overlap there between Scottie Pippen and Tom Brady. It's a generational thing. I think we see it a lot in the NBA. There is this great divide between NBA
Europe
and both of those generations seem and tend to resent each other to some degree. Chris, I'm on your side in that I largely agree with George Karl. And, Scottie Pippen was a great player, obviously contributed greatly to what was accomplished in Chicago. But it wasn't like Scottie Pippen was without faults. And it was not as if he could not be subject to criticism. But as George Karl pointed out, you just didn't do that. So I do think that Scottie Pippen is doing something and perpetrating something that he would not have tolerated as a player. Athletes tend to be motivated by slights or perceived slights or even invented slights. You're always looking for some kind of psychological edge, and they done me wrong is about the best psychological edge you could get. So, Brady, and he actually has not been very vocal about this. He hasn't said things of this nature, but he's the only guy in NFL history that's wearing 7 rings. Not the only quarterback, he's the only guy that's wearing 7 rings. And he got drafted in the 6th round, and he sees players that were drafted ahead of him that frankly could not carry his jock. And there's going to be some resentment there. And if that's one of the things that helps you get up in the morning at the age of 87 or whatever Tom Brady is right now and say, I'm going to do it again, this is not a really pretty thing about human nature, but it is a permanent thing about human nature. You done me wrong, and I'm going to get you, is a driving force, and that's just a fact.
Well, Paul, on these slights with the likes of social media, it seems so much easier these days to go and find something, especially if you're an athlete. I mean, even if you have a great game, you can go search yourself on Twitter and see someone saying something negative. In the case of Scottie Pippen, he comes after Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant is known all too well as a guy who immediately fires back, and he did so yesterday. Yeah. He just like yourself pointed out Scottie's incident where he could have gone in the game and decided to pout instead. Your thoughts on the impact of social media and what it might have had it been around during Scottie's playing days?
I think you have identified a key variable here. I mean, that really is the thing that has changed the landscape. It's just a different kind of exchange. You've got a different kind of access. There's a different cultural and communication environment. I mean, there's no question about that. And you mentioned Kevin Durant, who I think is a really interesting case study. This was a guy who came out of college and then went into the NBA and was bending over backwards to craft this persona of nothing bothers me. It's just water off a duck's back. I'm too large for that. And I think he really wanted to be that guy and become that guy, but he thinks he does protest too much. And Durant has become hypersensitive at this point. We're talking about Ben Simmons. I don't know about you guys, but I watch that and I cringe, and I am sympathetic. I mean, what kind of athlete he is, and the problems that he's facing right now. Now, look, obviously he's a professional athlete. He gets paid a lot of money, et cetera, and he is expected to perform. But you watch some of those things, and they were just cringeworthy because you can tell that he is now afraid of the sport he loves. That's very disturbing to me. I don't like watching that, and I don't revel in that in any way.
Well, as we speak with Coach A. Paul Alexander, and as you bring up Ben Simmons, I saw Stephen A. Smith earlier in the week, Paul, and he was reading what he said was a text from an insider in the Sixers organization. And Stephen A. Smith was a longtime columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer, so we know he's connected in Philadelphia. So if this text is true, somebody told Stephen A. Smith that Ben Simmons doesn't work hard, doesn't care to work hard, is very insulated, has a lot of family and hangers-on around him and yes men. And this person doesn't believe that Ben Simmons is going to dedicate himself to changing the things he needs to change to realize his potential as a basketball player. As we've just been talking about, Tom Brady and, Michael Jordan by extension, as we talk about Scottie Pippen. I mean, obviously these were guys who worked very hard around the clock, and they even used, as you mentioned, slights. And Michael Jordan, if there wasn't a slight, he would invent one for bulletin board material to get him ready for a game or a playoff series. How tragic is it, Paul, as a man you are who has covered sports for decades and decades and decades? If this is true about Ben Simmons, if he's got this God-given ability to be one of the greatest basketball players ever, but perhaps is also a slacker, how tragic is it to have that level of talent and not be willing to put in the work to be the best that you can be?
You just said the key word, the conditional if. If that is in fact the case, that's not worthy of respect. I mean, that's deplorable. That's not doing your part. That's not fulfilling your responsibility. The only thing I'll say, and to state the obvious, Stephen A. Smith knows more about basketball, or has forgotten more than I'll ever know, and he's much better wired than I am in that environment and that culture and that sport. The only thing I'll say, you mentioned the decades that I've spent covering sports. I cannot count the number of times that an individual somehow had a reputation because maybe somebody had an axe to grind against him or against her. And the worst thing you can call an athlete is a slacker or somebody that doesn't work hard. And I can tell you that I've encountered at least a dozen times in my career as a sports journalist where somebody got a completely undeserved reputation as a slacker. In some cases, not only were these guys not slackers, they were, in fact, the hardest working guys on the team. They were the first guy in and the last guy out. So if this is true, zero respect. All I can say is I've seen any number of times when not only was that not true, but the person being accused of that was the hardest worker on the team. Is that the case with Ben Simmons? I got no idea.
Well, and you bring up a great point, Paul, and I just underscore it. This was somebody who reportedly, and Stephen A. read the text, so it was somebody, according to Stephen A., close to the Sixers who texted him, and that could be somebody with an axe to grind. That could be somebody laying that perception on Ben Simmons when it was not required. Shannon, I know you got something you want to jump in here with Paul. Go ahead.
Well, with the axe to grind, I want to move over to Cole Beasley because, Paul, we talked to you about him last week after he kind of went on his rant about the NFLPA not being supportive and there's other guys that don't want to be vaccinated. Well, now we're hearing that the NFL, although they're not requiring you to get vaccinated, this season, if you do get COVID and you're not vaccinated, you are most likely not going to get paid. I think that's the right move. However, Mr. Cole Beasley, although he said he's not going to talk about it anymore, I'm sure we'll hear something from him when this goes final.
Yeah, I agree with you. And here, I feel like I have to give this preface once again. In terms of his ability as a competitor and what he's gone through in his career, and we're talking about a guy with a chip on his shoulder. Okay, this clearly, and I get this, is an athlete who's been dismissed since he was 12 years old. And every rung on the ladder, I'm going to show you, I'm going to get you. I respect that. And he is a very, very tough receiver. And matter of fact, I possibly think he's getting to the point where he's taking too many hits. But I called him an idiot a week ago today. I'm going to double down on that. That's an idiot/moron. And what he's saying has no intellectual underpinnings at all. It makes no sense at all. There is no logic in it at all. It is extremely disruptive. The NFL has a right to run their business. And the fact of the matter is they have not required that players and staffers get vaccinated. You can make an argument that they should, but they haven't. But if you're unvaccinated, you're going to go through a different protocol than vaccinated people. Okay, you're not being discriminated against. You're not in any way being singled out. This is not a political thing. This is we need to keep this league on the tracks thing. The NFL did an incredible job last year of playing all of those games. So Cole Beasley is a very tough guy, and he operates between the hashes with absolute courage, unlike few players I've ever seen. Cole Beasley is also a moron, a dangerous moron. And you know what? He says he might retire. Who was it that used to say it might be time for Cole Beasley to just get on with his life?
Paul Alexander with us. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with Cole Beasley this football season. Does he play? Does he retire? Does he continue to pop off on social media about vaccinations? It'll be very, very fascinating. Paul, I mentioned you not only covered the Longhorns up close and personal during your time as a broadcaster in Austin. You also founded the original radio show Longhorn Pipeline, which you did for many years. As I look at the Texas Longhorn athletic program right now, my goodness, they win last night in the College World Series after a 3-hour and 39-minute lightning and rain delay. They beat Virginia 6-2. 6 o'clock tonight, they go against Mississippi State. They're going to have to beat them twice if they want to advance to next week's best-of-3 finals in the College World Series. But Paul, as I look at the success of the baseball program, basketball bringing Chris Beard, an alumnus, over from Texas Tech. Of course, Steve Sarkisian now as the head coach, and all of the high expectations, and the future looks very, very bright for the football team. After all of these years, and you go way, way back, even before broadcasting, as being a Longhorns fan, the state of the Texas Longhorns athletic department, I'm not even mentioning all these other athletic programs that have won championships this season. Things are looking very, very bright in Austin these days for the Horns.
Very promising for all the reasons that you cite. And don't you guys feel this way? The world is a better place. Not just the sports world, not just America, not just Texas. The world is a better place when the Texas Longhorns are good at baseball. Okay, that just seems like the natural order of things. And I go all the way back to one of the people that I've admired most of everybody I've met in college athletics, Cliff Gustafson. Just a wonderful coach and an even better human being. And you look at that Longhorn history and that Longhorn legacy, it's just better when Texas is good at baseball, and especially when they make it to Omaha. That's a wonderful thing. So, yeah, you look at all these different points on the compass. I'm really getting excited about the Sarkisian thing. I think that, I had some questions about that hire. I think I may be coming over to the point of view that may be pure genius for a lot of reasons. Now, the only thing that's left for me, because I'm kind of a track guy, okay, it's time for the Texas men's track team to just be gorillas again. Get that done, and all's right with the world.
He is Coach A, Paul Alexander. And Paul, I mentioned this at the outset. You've launched the website now, Radically Rational. Obviously, we talked about your presence on Facebook. You've got the Facebook presence. The page is Radically Rational. But you've rolled out the website now, which is very, very exciting. And for people who don't know, what are they going to find when they get to the Radically Rational website?
Well, the first thing I hope they see is our first guest column from our first guest columnist, Chris Duel. We are so fortunate to have a columnist of that caliber and a column of that caliber. That was truly inspiring. So I really thank you, and I want people to see that. But we tried to make this really kind of a diverse, eclectic thing. I've got a daily blog on there just regarding things that are happening in the world, but I also do a daily sports blog as well. And we call that The Games People Play, all things sports. So that's one of the tabs on there, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. We've got a feature in there that I have titled, It Was My Privilege. And this is not a name-dropping thing at all, but I've had any number of friends tell me, Paul, you've just been so fortunate, and you're right, that you had encounters with people of historical greatness. And we really want to know about that. So we've got a feature in there that I'm going to refresh about every 10 days, and it's called "It Was My Privilege." The first one is about Jesse Owens, the late Jesse Owens. And again, this is not in any way a self-aggrandizement or name dropping. I did the last interview of Jesse Owens' life before he passed. And, I don't want to describe the column right now. I prefer to have people read it. But all I can tell you is this was a man that was dying of lung cancer and was in essentially a hospital hospice environment. And he knew that death was imminent. And he talked to me for 4 hours. And the only thing he was more concerned about, are you everything okay, Paul? Can I get you some more? It was unbelievable. This is one of the greatest Americans ever. And he was treated in a completely abominable way by the country that he had served so deeply and felt so deeply about. So that's a feature that we have on there. We've got podcasts. For example, my podcast partner, Roy Pearson, and I, we did 3 of these things yesterday. So we're putting the production touches on that. But one of the shows we did, we're coming out of a pandemic, or we hope we are. We hope we're not back in the soup shortly. But one of the ways that you can tell that we are getting closer to normal is the return to live music, because that's what people are saying they miss so badly. I know I did. So we did a show yesterday with 2 iconic Texas musicians. First of all, Ruben V, who I think is the best guitar slinger in Texas, and also Hector Saldana, who's done so many things, but also is the front man for the Crayolas, who are having this just international renaissance and comeback right now. That turned out great. We're always looking for trends in the media landscape. So we did a podcast with one of the original CNN anchors, Lou Waters, who joined us from his home in Tucson, and that was fascinating. So Lou, by the way, just full disclosure here, was a former boss of mine. So I had to publicly apologize for all the hell that I put him through. And he said he appreciated that. So that was good. And then I'm always kind of wondering, Chris, I know you think about this a lot. How did we get here as a society? Meaning, how do we become so polarized? How do we get so darn mean? How do we start rejecting facts? Well, we found not only one of the country's leading sociologists, but quite possibly the nicest guy I've ever met, not named Chris Duel. And his name is Dr. Roger Barnes, and he's retiring as head of the sociology department at UIW. So we had him on, and he had fascinating things to say about this. So we've got those ready to go. And as I said, there's an audio version and a video version. So we're trying to make the production value pretty high on the video side. So we'll get that done. But that's just kind of what we're doing right now. And it's fun for me. I roll out of the rack early and get these daily posts done. And it's incredibly nice of you to even ask about this. It's something that we feel strongly about. We invite everybody to visit the website at radicallyrational.com. But really, more than anything else, this is about having a good time. If we're not entertaining, we're failing.
It is outstanding stuff. I highly recommend it. Radicallyrational.com and on Facebook as well. Coach A, Paul Alexander, always outstanding, sir. Keep on keeping on. Have a great weekend. We'll talk again real soon.
You guys do the same, and thanks again.
All right, Paul Alexander, the coach, coming up. Shannon and Salty Shakedown. This day in sports history, I will argue, is the greatest day in Spurs history for 2 reasons, not just one. Sports birthdays and more. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler making the show go. I'm Chris, with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! All right, now I need I don't know exactly. I will guess like 66, 67.
Okay, so that was he's older, even older than that.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. I think he was born about 1955. I'm not, and I don't know that. I always try to gauge based on. I think he was like in high school around 73, 74, based on what I see him post. Here we come. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney on a Friday, June 25th, the final Friday and the final weekend of the month of June, which is absolutely crazy. But enjoy it nonetheless. The month of June is fleeting and summer is beginning to get rolling here. Although technically summer just began around June 21st with the summer solstice. In a moment, Shannon's Salty Shakedown will bring you some sports history, some sports birthdays. Just after the top of the hour, we'll go deeper into football and the world of sports with James Allen from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Also, in the 8 o'clock hour, the final time this week that you can win concert tickets to go see Coheed and Cambria along with the Used and Meet Me at the Altar at Circuit of the Americas on September 4th. And the phone number is the same number you use to dial us up. We'll tell you at the time in the 8 o'clock hour which caller we're going to take. But the phone number is 800-707-9760. 800-707-9760. There is a video feed as always. You got a number of ways you can access it. You can access it via Facebook Live, AM 1300 The Zone, and Ticket 760's Facebook pages can get you in there, as well as YouTube, Twitch, all kinds of ways to access the live video stream. And also you can interact with us and other viewers in real time via the live video stream. In a moment, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports birthdays before that, and this day in sports history. June 25th, 1948. Joe Louis knocks out Jersey Joe Walcott in 11 rounds for the heavyweight boxing title. Jersey Joe Walcott might have been knocked out, but that is one of the coolest names for a boxer ever. I'm Jersey Joe Walcott. Thank you. Well, you're going down. He lasted 11 rounds with Joe Louis, though. That was nice. On this day in 1968, Bobby Bonds hit the grand slam in his first major league game. That was kind of a foreshadowing of things to come. Bobby Bonds, the father of Barry Bonds, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Bobby Bonds played with the San Francisco Giants. That was very, very nice. This day, 20 years after that, in 1988, Baltimore Orioles' Cal Ripken Jr. played his 1,000th consecutive baseball game. Of course, he would go on to play many, many more. Cal Ripken Jr., an Iron Man for consecutive games in Major League Baseball. And this day in Spurs history, I say June 25th, the biggest day ever for two reasons. Something happened in 1997 that led to something happening in 1999 on this day. On this day in 1997, with the number one pick in the NBA draft, the Spurs took a guy named Tim Duncan with the first overall pick out of Wake Forest. Exactly 2 years to the day of picking Tim Duncan on June 25th, 1999. The Spurs won their first franchise ever NBA championship on this night in New York City at Madison Square Garden. Spurs beat the New York Knicks 78-77 in game number 5. Your MVP, Tim Duncan, of course, the man who hit the game winner. Baseline jumper by the little general Avery Johnson was pretty cool. As a guy who had the bad rap for much of his career that he couldn't hit the outside jumper, Avery Johnson hit the game winner. So Spurs draft Tim Duncan on this day in 97. They win their first title ever on this day in 1999. That's sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1942, Willis Reed, NBA and Basketball Hall of Famer, MVP. Sarah went on to be coach at one time of the New York Knicks. Famously walked back onto the court in Madison Square Garden after suffering a major injury. Willis Reed was born in Pico, Louisiana. Born on this day in 1949, Phyllis George, Miss America in 1971. She went on to be a sportscaster of the NFL Today on CBS, along with Brent Musburger and Irv Cross. It was a groundbreaking pregame panel show on CBS. Phyllis George, born in Denton, Texas, on this day in 1949. She passed away in 2020. She once famously asked Roger Staubach, one of the most famous interviews with Roger Staubach, she asked him about Joe Namath and sex. And Roger told Phyllis George, I enjoy sex as much as Joe Namath. I just do it with one woman, my wife. It was a great moment. A great interview with Roger Staubach, the question asked by Phyllis George. Finally, born on this day in 1964, American basketball guard and broadcaster Del Curry. Del Curry was more than as an NBA player. He won the NBA Sixth Man of the Year award in 1994. He is the Charlotte Hornets all-time points leader with 9,839 points. That's pretty good. But maybe Del Curry's biggest accomplishment, his kids, one of whom is named Steph Curry, who's pretty good, and Seth Curry. Now with the Philadelphia 76ers, not that bad. Del Curry, born this day in 1964 in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Happy birthday, Del Curry, Phyllis George, and Willis Reed. Those are your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, here it is, your last shot for the week. This will have to last you until Monday. Here it is, your salty shakedown.
Before we get too into it, I do have a birthday shout out for my mom.
Whoa!
Her birthday is this Sunday. We're going to go to a new restaurant that was her request.
Cool.
She said, where you want to go eat? She said somewhere new and fun that we haven't been. So we're going to hit up, I don't know if it's pronounced Peche or Peche. It's French for sin.
Sweet.
So if you know French, put it in our comments. So I'm not saying, I don't want to get there and be saying it wrong to the people's face.
It's a French, to go to a French restaurant for mom.
I think it's French inspired. It's also like pre-prohibition. So they have like absinthe and a lot of cocktails and things like that. So I'm excited and she approved the menu. So that's where we're heading. But happy birthday, Mom. I didn't get you anything else. So this is it. You're welcome. All right, let's get into the shakedown for today. Chris, we learned yesterday that the NFL will be allowing alternate helmets in the 2022 season. You don't seem excited.
I'm so old. I'm a traditionalist.
Okay.
And I guess you could argue tradition is old school helmets, but when the Cowboys wear those white helmets with the blue star, I just
Well, here's the kicker. They can't start wearing them until 2022, but it has to be pre-approved by the NFL by this July 31st. The teams have to say, this is the uniform we're wearing. This is the helmet we're going to wear. This is the date we're going to wear them. The teams, do they know who they're going to play? They may have an idea, but they certainly don't have the exact dates or the exact time. So I don't know. They can wear these helmets when they do throwbacks, when they do color rush, or when they do alternate jerseys. But I just find it interesting that they do have to have it in over a year in advance. That's not the only stipulation. The week leading up to the game that they decide to wear these helmets, they have to wear them in practice, if not the week before, because of course they got rid of the alternate helmets in 2013 due to health concerns, right, with players having more than one helmet. So they want these players must use the exact same style helmet and everything must be the same. The only difference is going to be what it looks like, which I think, why wouldn't it be like that anyway? But I don't know, it could be cool. I don't really recall seeing them back when they were still allowed prior to 2013. So I'm excited. I'm hoping we eventually get like a Tampa Tommy and the creamsicle, and then with the throwback Bucks helmet, but I'm with you as far as a Cowboys fan. I do like the traditionalist look, but you're not even a little excited, or are you a little it's a marketing ploy and that people are not going to be going out and buying helmets and throwback stuff.
I think you nailed it. It is a marketing ploy. I'm very get off my lawn, old man, grumpy old man on this. But you're right. And two teams that have iconic looks that should never be messed with are the Dallas Cowboys and the Texas Longhorns. And I understand other teams around the NFL maybe don't have it. Certainly teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers do. There's that one Pittsburgh Steelers throwback that has the horizontal lines that is god-awful.
Oh, the bumblebee.
Oh, God, yeah. So I don't like it, but what the heck? Maybe I need to. I know the kids love it. I mean, younger people love just different looks, and so maybe I need to get with the times and embrace it.
Unpopular opinion: the Packers throwbacks are also disgusting.
Yeah,
they look like.
I agree.
Like something kids used to wear while running around in the mud, which I guess is technically what those grown men are doing. All right, keeping it with the NFL, we're going to talk a little Mark Davis, sir. He was in a wreck, but not a big wreck. He said it was no big deal. He was in a shopping parking lot going 3 miles per hour around a, quote, roundabout thing when he drives a Mini Cooper, you guys. He ran into a woman. He said it was no big deal. They got it all taken care of. Obviously, this guy has lots of money, so probably not much for him. But it was interesting because, he's in this Mini Cooper, and we learned a couple weeks ago that Mr. Head of the Patriots, Robert Kraft, got his dream car, which was a specialized Bentley. And here is the $500 million man who drives a Mini Cooper. Those start at $22,000, sir. And he was in a TJ Maxx parking lot. He's shopping for deals in his teeny tiny car. I love it. I think Mark Davis is like the dad of the NFL. At least that's the way he dresses. And now we know where he shops. It all makes sense, sir. Did you hear about this? I mean, I can't believe that this was like the big news coming from Raiders camp today. But he in his Mini, he got in a Mini wreck.
I did hear about it, and some millionaires are millionaires because they're frugal. But I never understood the Mini Cooper, and people love them, and there are Mini Cooper clubs, and they meet on Saturday, and they go on road rally. They're tiny, and you pay more. You're paying, and you said they start at $22,000. They go up from there if you want any kind of add-ons. But people love them, and they're just tiny. And if I want to get in something smaller than a Volkswagen Beetle, then I will. But I never understood throwback uniforms or the Mini Cooper.
Typically, when you see a Mini Cooper wreck story, it's that car was crushed by whatever vehicle it came in contact with. So luckily for Mark Davis's case, it wasn't a big deal. But again, get the guy a Bentley. Somebody gift him a Bentley. If Robert Kraft can be gifted a Bentley because he won't, quote, buy it himself, get Mr. Mark Davis a Bentley. All right, we're gonna keep it moving here with Jon Rahm. Okay, he just won the U.S. Open. And not only that, he did it after leaving a tournament he was leading by 6 strokes that he would have won over $1 million for, thanks to a positive COVID test. He bounces back in the biggest way possible by winning a major. And I guess we got a new golf tradition on our hands here, Chris, because as we know, Phil Mickelson, after winning his last major, took his trophy and was drinking wine from it. And, that's very, very classy. Well, Jon Rahm, I guess he saw that and he thought, hey, I can drink out of this new trophy. This U.S. Open trophy is very similar to the one of Phil Mickelson. So I'm going to take it to this patio restaurant I'm dining at, which he did. It was a dinner. It was dark outside, and he had to one-up Phil. So he chugged. We don't know what he was chugging quite yet. So hopefully that news will come out, because I'm sure just like the wine Phil was drinking, that item will be selling out quickly. But he chugged whatever the drink was from his trophy, and on the ground in front of him is a blue glowing golf ball. He was chugging, and he picked up a club, smacked the S out of this golf ball that is glowing and it's dark, so you just see it fly into the distance, and then picks up the trophy again and starts chugging more whatever mysterious drink was in there. I think it's fantastic. I love this tradition. I think all that's going on with golf right now, even though a lot of it's off the course, I think it's helping everything that's going on the course to have all of this excitement. And just, I mean, we've got personalities now. I think Tiger was the only personality we had for the longest time, and now all these guys are coming through. I love it, Chris.
He took it to the next level. I think from now on, you should always not only drink out of your championship trophy, but I like it, John Rahm, chug out of your championship trophy, and then a glowing golf ball in the night. And as you said, he smacked the S out of it. Yes. And when you do this, get it on video so we can all enjoy it. We live in the video, social media era. Don't do this without video.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
So we can all enjoy it.
It didn't happen. There's no video, and there certainly is video of this. And don't give me there are some golf tournaments where the trophies aren't cups. Okay, because we've got the Lombardi Trophy, and people do the Lombardi Luge. Okay, there are ways and things that you can do in order to drink off of your number one victorious trophy. So get creative, golfers. I know, like the Dell Match Play Trophy is got a dome on top, right? So it's not a cup. We're gonna have to get creative. But I love this new tradition. Let's keep it going. But we'll have to keep it a little classy next time, right? For the British Open, because U.S. Open, British Open. I guess the British would be more classy than that. But there you have it. Today's Salty Chuggin' Shakedown.
The Salty Chuggin' Shakedown, outstanding as always, an outstanding week of Salty Shakedowns. Mark Davis, Jason Paniagua on Facebook Live. We were talking about Mark Davis being frugal, shopping at TJ Maxx. Jason says,
I love that spot.
Yes. Jason says you can tell Mark Davis is frugal by his haircut.
The bowl cut.
That's a very frugal haircut. Put a bowl down there and just snip it.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
man.
always blown my mind. But hey, he stuck with it. It's almost like Ariana Grande or even me in my ponytail, right? It's just our signature look. You can't change it now.
Yeah.
His haircut, it's a piece of him. It's part of his identity.
Wow.
We wouldn't know who he was if he'd just be another white guy walking around if he had a different haircut.
True.
You see him now? You know who that is.
How weird that must have been to, I guess, he is a little weird to be the son of Al Davis.
Yeah.
And that dude was your father. I mean, it's good to be the son of Al Davis. You inherited a football team.
I'd take it.
Woo!
Small price to pay.
Exactly. Speaking of football, coming up, our good friend James Allen from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We'll talk NFL. We'll talk about Tom Brady and just popping off. This should be a big weekend with a big Tom Brady reveal on LeBron James' HBO show. We will get into that. Maybe some more Scottie Pippen talk. We'll talk football, sports, and more with James Allen. Oh, and then in the next half hour, we will give away those tickets to see Coheed and Cambria, The Used, and Meet Me at the Altar. Shannon will tell you what caller we're going to take at 800-707-9760. That's coming up in less than a half an hour. Stick around. We got an hour to go on the Chris Duel Show. I'm going to record a spot here, so thank you, sir. Okay. Stephanie, happy birthday, Stephanie. Shannon just walked out the door, as you can see. So she will see that in a moment. Enjoy the French cuisine. Apparently, it's not just French. Okay, I need to read some promo copy, and I need to record it. This is for a promo. New stereo. So I'm going to do that. Yes, forgive me for my promo read. Knowing me, I'll probably screw it up, so there'll be multiple takes. Here we go. Voice is scratchy. I hate that. When you're doing a promo. Here we go. Everything you need to know in the world of sports, we're all over it. Longhorns, Cowboys, Astros, and more. Plus, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney on AM 1300 The Zone and the iHeart Radio app. Weekdays, 6 to 9. I'm putting the pauses in there so we can edit. All right, couple more. Wake up to everything you need to know in the world of sports with the Chris Duel Show. Talking Cowboys, Longhorns, Astros, and more. You're going to love it. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. 6 to 9 in the morning on AM 1300 The Zone and the iHeart Radio app. Wake up to the world of sports with Chris and Salty. From breaking down the national headlines to what's going on in Central Texas sports. Chris Duel Show is your Chris Duel Show is your one stop for it all. Weekday mornings from 6 to 9 a.m. on AM 1300 The Zone and the iHeart Radio app. Any more? Listen to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Live weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on AM 1300 The Zone and the iHeart Radio app. One more. The Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney podcast is ready and waiting for you. Check it out on the iHeart Radio app or wherever you listen to podcasts. Woo! Hopefully there's something usable in there. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Edit. Edit. Copy. And again, I think you remember this from last time. We go to James at about 09 instead of top. Cool. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah, that's his look now. In fact, in that shot, he's I got to tweet that out. He's holding a glass of his bourbon in that shot. I'll try to get you that. Here we go. Woo! Woo! Final hour.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side, yeah.
Now, Chris Duel.
We break on through to the other side. The other side of the week. The weekend is upon us. Thank you, Jim Morrison. Thank you, Mr. Mojo Rison. Thank you, Lizard King, front man of the Doors and proud member of the 27 Club. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney, who, during her Salty Shakedown, gave a shout out to her mom, who was having a birthday on Sunday, actually. So and your mom said thank you on Facebook Live. Your mom is joining us on the video feed, or at least was a few minutes ago, Shannon. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, she's my biggest fan.
And how weird is it? You know, it's like normal for us these days, but when there's a live video feed to go to work and have your mom watching you at work, it's just, you know, we're used to it now. But if you would have said this 10 years ago, you're going to go to work as an adult, and your mom is going to watch you on a computer. That's just weird.
Or I get like, because like the thing to do these days, right? When you wake up and your alarm goes off, first thing you do is you grab your phone, and most people start scrolling through social media that they missed out while they were sleeping. And I get a lot of friends who text me during the show, like, it's so weird to see your face live in the morning. And then I click on it, and then I hear your voice and you sound different. I'm like, I didn't ask you to click on anything. This is all against my will. I didn't force it upon you.
Exactly. Yeah, I get that. The thing I get, most people who know me well know I am so not a morning person. So they go, how do you? It's like I'm rolling out of bed at 6:15,
Yeah.
and you and Shannon are all chipper and just talking a mile a minute. So
The wonders of coffee.
it's the wonders of coffee, and the only reason we do coffee is because management frowns upon crystal meth.
Right. And last night's game getting started so late, I took to my Twitter peoples and I said, should I stay up? Like, tomorrow's Friday. A lot of people said I should. For those wondering, I only made it through the second inning, and then I was like, I can't. I'm so tired. I need some sleep, because that game didn't end until like 1:00.
God.
This morning.
Yeah. Well, one of those, when I'm in that situation, it's one of my sports superstitions. Because I think if I stay up and then lose, and I got to wake up early the next morning, then I'm going to hate life. I'm going to hate myself.
Right.
I'm going to hate that I
Go to
stayed
bed
up.
angry.
Yeah. But if I go to sleep, there's a higher probability the Longhorns will win. Because I'll say, damn, I wish I would have seen that.
Yeah. They were up 1-0. So I was like, at least I'm going to bed a winner.
Yes.
At this very moment.
And luckily tonight, if the weather permits, they play at 6 against Mississippi State. So and you don't have to wake up early tomorrow, I don't think. So
Nope.
you're good.
Don't think so.
Woo! All right. A man who is always up early. He does more before 6 a.m. than most human beings do all day. He is, with his own walking music, his own walk-up music. The beautiful, the talented, the only other Texan other than Jerry Jones on the board of Pro Football Hall of Fame, the one and only James Allen. James, how are you on this Friday morning?
I'm doing great. Good morning, Shannon. Good morning, Chris.
And what have you done this morning at 8:09, nearly 8:10 in the morning on a Friday? Have you already run 4 miles and cleaned out the garage and mowed the lawn and struck 4 business deals?
Some of that's true. Done some of that, but not quite all of that. I'll be hitting the hard work out here at 11 o'clock today. So I'll be finishing up the morning pretty hard in a 100-degree barn.
Very cool. Well, and as we mentioned, we talk a lot of NFL football with you. We don't limit it to the NFL, but certainly on the board of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I know the NFL is on your radar. And it's going to be an interesting weekend for sports fans and for football fans. Tom Brady, I don't know if you saw, there's a promo out there. He's going to be on LeBron James. Shannon, what's the name of the LeBron James HBO show?
The Shop. They all sit in a barber shop and talk it up.
So he's in LeBron James, they're in a barbershop, James. And in the promo, Brady is talking about when he was a free agent, considering not only the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but a lot of these other teams. And he says one team that he was talking to, he found out they didn't want Brady because they were going to stick with the quarterback they had. And in this clip, it seems as though Brady says, wait a minute, you're going to stick with that? And he uses an expletive, starts with an M, ends with an F-er. And just, you've talked to us, James, about Hall of Famers, and Brady will be one. And typically there's like a code among Hall of Famers. You don't dog a fellow Hall of Famer. And it just seems weird. And again, maybe this editing was manipulated, and we'll find that out. This show is going to drop, I believe, tonight on HBO. Maybe Brady didn't say this, but if he did dog another starting quarterback in the NFL, doesn't that seem a little weird for Tom Brady?
It does. You never know if that's a tease. You guys know that in the media. However, that story's been out there for a while. I haven't talked to Tom personally because he's not in the Hall of Fame yet. Obviously, he'll be a first rounder. I will say one caveat. Hall of Famers don't talk about Hall of Famers. So, he's still out there competing. He's still in the arena. And, these guys, as you know, they have to motivate themselves. And that's the key to, Tom has been nothing but a gentleman and a winner, like a Roger Staubach, like a modern-day Patrick Mahomes. We've talked about this over and over again. The locker room culture is what makes these teams champions. And, so if he did this to kind of, he's late in life, everyone's doubting him. Everybody said, oh, he had it easy at the Patriots. And, he's proven everyone wrong every step of the way. And so, this maybe he got a little, he's a competitive guy. The guy is phenomenal in shape. He's obsessive about that. So, if he did something like that, to compete and make himself more competitive, that's kind of par for the course for the top athletes.
Well, for better or for worse, Tom is everywhere this offseason, more so than I think we've ever seen him. And I think a lot of that has to do with the match coming up because, yes, he's appearing on the Shop this weekend, and then he had a big 12-minute segment with James Corden on the Late Late Show earlier this week. It was actually pretty fantastic as they went around playing golf and shared jokes. And we actually learned he's a big fan of show tunes, Mr. Tom Brady, and has seen Hamilton multiple times. But how interested are you in this upcoming The Match between Aaron Rodgers, Phil Mickelson against Aaron Rodgers and Bryson DeChambeau against Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady?
Well, I am interested. I'm not a big watching golf guy because it's a little slow for me. But these guys are highly competitive. I know Mark Wahlberg, golfs with Tom Brady a lot, and Mark Wahlberg is highly competitive, and and so is Aaron. Now those guys are gonna. You can call it a match. They might as well have helmets on and do kind of a Happy Gilmore kind of thing because, and mentally they're going to be getting each other's skin and everything else. And I think there's going to be a lot of dialogue. But I actually am going to watch that. So I just had a fascination because I know these guys. Every shot counts. Every stroke counts. So.
James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I find it fascinating, James, that in that golf match, you do have Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. I think now, other than Patrick Mahomes, who you just mentioned, who is the young gun, and, if Mahomes isn't already the best player in the NFL, surely he will be, but certainly in that conversation now, and maybe that on one hand, if you had to count three quarterbacks now that Drew Brees has left the league, I think you would say Mahomes, Brady, and Aaron Rodgers. But as you and I and Shannon, James, we've talked about Aaron Rodgers quite a bit in this offseason because of his expressing his unhappiness with Green Bay Packer management. But I wonder how much of that from Aaron Rodgers' perspective. And we even saw Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks for the first time ever letting Dan Patrick on a radio show know that he was less than thrilled with the way things were going for him in Seattle. I wonder how much of that is Tom Brady envy. I mean, other quarterbacks who are elite quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers, like Russell Wilson, saw what Tom Brady did. He was in New England. He did not have the supporting cast he was happy with. Reportedly, he didn't like that Bill Belichick never really celebrated him, affirmed him, gave him credit for his skills. So he became a free agent, and he went on to greener pastures. And not only went to greener pastures, won a darn Super Bowl the first year at Tampa Bay. As we look at a guy like Aaron Rodgers and what he's expressing and going through, do you think part of that is he's maybe a little envious of what Tom Brady was able to do by going to another team?
I can't speak to that. Obviously, he was that way with Brett Favre, and those are documented. Again, you don't get to that level without being that way. Obviously, it's how you handle it. And Aaron's, handling it his way. But I think there's a bigger dichotomy. These guys are coming towards the end of their career. It's all about legacy and what they leave on the table. They don't need any more money. They don't, they've won their accolades. Aaron Rodgers will be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, no question. But, you have to remember the culture thing. I keep banging away at that. Tom Brady got involved with them drafting quarterbacks. They talked to him. He had a relationship with the owner and general manager at the Patriots, same as he's done with Tampa Bay, remember? And they worked as a team. Where Aaron's always, been outside the door. Now, I will say to as the Seattle Seahawks situation with Russell, who has been a classic guy, strong Christian, lives his life that way. A little different because Paul Allen, the Microsoft co-founder, died. His sister took over, and the culture changed. And he's kind of left out. So to Russell's defense, remember, you got to have it from top down and, how the relationships go. So Tom Brady has always sat down with the owner and worked things out, and even with the drafts and everything else. As you saw with Tampa Bay, they said, hey, we're thinking about drafting a quarterback. What do you think? Oh, that's great. Well, then Aaron Rodgers sees that, and he gets kind of pouty because they dressed without him. So I think that part was jealous. But, if you want to be a part of the culture and you don't feel like you're part of the door, you need to go in the door like Tom Brady does and say, hey, I'd like to be a part of the door. So that's on you. And Russell Wilson, I'm not throwing Paul Allen's sister under the bus. Obviously, she wasn't as active Paul, the general manager, but, and Russell, I know, tried to get in those doors. So sometimes you're just not allowed in. But, yeah, it comes down to those little nuances about culture. Are you going to get involved or not? Or are you allowed to get involved? And Tom Brady has always create a culture, like I said, from the cowboy all the way up to the lineman or defense. He says hi, treats everybody the same. That's his culture. And that culture, owners love that. And so he's always been able to work beside the owners and everything else. And it is very envious.
James, we learned yesterday that the NFL, beginning in 2022, will allow teams to wear throwback helmets along with their throwback jerseys and alternate uniforms, which I think is pretty cool. Chris isn't all that into it. But with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, obviously it's so much about the history of the league and the players within it. Could we start seeing these players wear these alternate helmets in future games to start this season? I mean, I know this year is too quick for the Cowboys and the Steelers to make that change. But in future games, do you think this would be something cool to see?
Yeah, it's just the times we're in. I mean, Roger Goodell wants to make this a $25 billion a year organization. And he does plow it back in for the fans. And again, if you remember, no offense to our previous commissioner, we were on one channel. You're on every channel. The commissioner plows it back in for the fans. He's all about the fans. He has young people around him up there in New York, and young people love this kind of stuff. Tampa Bay actually has been pushing this helmet thing for several years. That's really been the lead person behind it, because they wanted to bring that back, and they put some restrictions on it, but it's what the fans want, and people want to go out and buy the different jerseys. And Roger Goodell, you can say what he wants, but he listens to the fans. I get where Chris is coming from. I'm the same guy. Although I don't like the old Cowboys helmets, I like the new ones. But and some of the other helmets and uniforms that go back to the 30s, 40s, and 50s are terrible. However, the genre we're in now, people love that kind of stuff. So the commissioner, which I love, he listens to where the market, where we are. We're a social media market. We're a younger market. We want the newest uniform. We want the newest hat. And so he's catering towards that, to some degree, obviously with high restrictions.
Well, and again, and my point, James, on this as we speak with James Allen from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, especially for a team, college or pro, when you have a look, and like you said, I don't. The original cowboy helmet was high, the white helmet with the blue star. But when they discovered that, the metallic blue helmet with the blue star that is currently the iconic star that Tex Schramm and Tom Landry and Clint Murchison, when they went to that, and that whole look for the Cowboys was so great. And I mentioned the Texas Longhorns earlier. I think they've got an iconic look that shouldn't be messed with. My alma mater, USC, they don't mess with it. I like that. And your alma mater, Texas A&M, I would argue as well, especially those helmets and that look, that it has stood the test of time. I don't think A&M should go mess with their look either.
Well, I agree with that. A&M and UT, those are. I mean, and USC, of course. I mean, Notre Dame. I mean, this goes back. College is a whole different dichotomy, right? And a whole different dichotomy in marketing, a whole different dichotomy in helmets and T-shirt sales. And no offense to UT or A&M or USC, but the market in the NFL is just so diverse. I mean, and they require more from their franchises. So yes, I agree. On the college end, don't change anything, please. But from the public and the fans,
yep, Armando, we're live.
And so the commissioner is kind of tilting towards them. Just like, I don't know if you guys are aware, the combine's been in Indianapolis since the 80s.
Yeah.
The commissioner is opening that up to bids because the commissioner said, let's put it on prime time. See if people want to watch the combine. Everybody watched it. And so he's opening that up. And, Stan Kroenke, I know, is probably the favorite with this $5 billion stadium. Although Jerry, with his Star facility in Frisco, from my inside reports, are the top two people that'll be vying for that. But that's just kind of where we're heading. People want to be more involved, and maybe it's post-COVID. We haven't had a lot of football, but I mean, people are watching the combine. Same with the draft. We were supposed to have it at Canton, and we had a little situation, nothing big, but the fans are kind of moving the needle, and the commissioner is listening to them.
He is James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We're going to take a quick time out to give away concert tickets. We've been doing this whole week. This is the last shot of the week to see Coheed and Cambria, the Used, meet me at the altar at Circuit of the Americas on September 4th. Shannon, you choose the caller. Which caller are we going to take?
Six runs for Texas. So caller 6 today.
Caller 6.
707-9760. Seco Heating Cambria.
800-707-9760. We'll tell you in a moment who the big winner of the tickets are. It's interesting, James Allen, you were talking about the NFL Combine moving, and Jerry Jones and Jerry World certainly wanting to make a bid on it. I heard yesterday on the national radio show, Las Vegas wants it, and Las Vegas would like to have bets on the Combine. How weird would that be? We're going to start betting on, which quarterback runs the fastest 40-yard dash, which lineman can lift the most weight. I mean, it sounds insane, but, gambling on so many levels, people, the fantasy sports on their smartphone, DraftKings, FanDuel, everything people are gambling on. I say, why not gamble on the Combine? Sounds like fun to me. What do you think?
Well, based on the laws that have been passed, yeah, and I think they will. I mean, people laughed at rotisserie, what they used to call, which is what we know as fantasy football now, right? And the original founders were so protective of it, they said they missed the boat. Who knew? Most people don't realize fantasy football drives a lot of people watching teams that are not their teams. From a marketing perspective, I mean, Jerry Jones, who knows every fact there is about media, was telling me just some extraordinary facts about that. And this will bring gambling's gambling. Everyone gambles on sports, right? Whether it's legal or not. Of course, it'll be exciting because it brings more sizzle to the thing. All right, my guy out of UT, he's super fast. Oh, yeah, well, my guy out of USC is even faster. I mean, that's going to create... I think it's, for the fans, and again, the commissioner and Troy Vincent and all the guys up there in New York, they're super smart. And remember, commissioner started basically in the mailroom. And he turned the marketing around the NFL under Talibou. And Talibou, he's the first commissioner in history that wasn't some political pointy. And he knows marketing. So I think it would be extremely exciting. I mean, if you're going to have gambling, when in Rome, a lot of people don't like gambling. I get it. I'm not promoting that. But, unfortunately, it's been sanctioned. So this is where we're heading. And it's going to be like the new fantasy football. I do believe that.
Yeah, it'll certainly generate revenue. James Allen, always insightful, always entertaining. James Allen, I know 4th of July weekend is still a week away. What are your big weekend plans for this weekend?
I have zero plans. I didn't even figure it out. I've been so busy until yesterday, so I have zero plans. Anybody have anything? Give me a shout out. I want to give some quick shout out, if you don't mind. Besides my parents, are always listen. My sister, Gabrielle, is listening, single mom. And I do want to give a shout out. I know there's a couple single dads out there, but single moms, I know you're a big fan of the Bible, Chris, and it talks about, and whether you think it's a Christian book or a great wisdom book, it's about single moms. And all the single moms out there, those are Hall of Famers. And I really want to give a shout out to my sister and all the single moms. And my son, who's going to regionals today out at Rutledge Stadium. Give him best of luck. And I really appreciate you guys so much. Hook 'em horns in the baseball. Good luck to them. And I appreciate you guys so much. And I hope you all have a great weekend.
And a big shout out to Gabriel, the sister of James Allen. Absolutely. Single moms everywhere. James Allen, outstanding, sir. Have yourself a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, we will tell you who the final winner of those concert tickets is, and we'll also get you ready for all of the sports weekend. Of course, College World Series, Longhorns in action, 6 o'clock tonight. We'll cover everything, including your NBA playoff action. More coming at you all weekend, tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday. We'll let you know what's coming at you NBA-wise as well. And might there be more head coaching vacancies filled? Had 2 of them essentially filled yesterday. We'll dive back into that as well. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler is your soundscape stylist. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Warren, I'm so sorry, man. Sorry you didn't get in. I prefer it. And the people who really want to see a concert are the winners. And I prefer, obviously, when regulars like you are, Warren, win the thing. So I feel bad. I'm sorry you didn't get in. but I have a hard time keeping up. Is it next week that you're out a couple days and Bartlett's in here? When does that happen? The Thursday and Friday of next week. Okay, thank you. I do not, no. Okay, Felix, interesting. Okay. Thank you, Armando. Carl Fisher says Texas should win. They have momentum and swag, which could be dangerous. Yeah, and hopefully, an extra chip on their shoulder because they lost to Mississippi State. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney on the final Friday of June 25th. Welcome in. So much going on in the sports world, and we are all over it. And the Scottie Pippen story just gets weirder and weirder. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, let's check in with Soundscape stylist Dave Ayler. Dave, we gave away the final pair of tickets. There were some people bummed out on Facebook Live, including our friend Warren Wheeler, who tried each of the 5 mornings to win. He didn't get in today. He kept getting a busy signal. So sorry, Warren, and anybody who didn't get the tickets. But tickets to see Coheed and Cambria along with the Used and Meet Me at the Altar Circuit of the Americas on September 4th. Who is our big winner today?
Today's tickets go to Kevin Beal.
Kevin! Did Kevin say anything interesting? I'm a big Coheed and Cambria fan, man. This made my day.
He was very excited, yes.
Okay. Are you making that up?
No, okay. No, he really was.
All right. That's I
wouldn't lie to you, Chris.
Well, and yesterday, a guy named Juan won yesterday, and I asked him if he was excited. Not really. So he tweeted us. He tweeted us overnight and he said, "Yes, I am a big Coheed and Cambria fan, and yes, I was excited." He said I had to pull my car over so that the call wouldn't drop. So,
very cool.
So even when people aren't excited, they might still be excited.
Those are popular tickets this week.
I get it. Maybe over the weekend on Apple Music. I'll brush up on my Coheed and Cambria. Maybe I'll get them. I don't know. Shannon, there's more to the Scottie Pippen story, apparently, than we realized. The Scottie Pippen story, basically, and by the way, and I still need to tweet it out. I did put it on Facebook, and you can actually see it on the tweet of our show photo for the day. Scottie Pippen, I'm digging his hair. He's kind of like grown out the hair, and it's not really an afro, but it's like it's big. I'm like Scottie Pippen's hair now has some attitude, and I'm liking it actually a lot. I don't know if I'm liking what Scottie Pippen is saying lately, and of course we've talked about it earlier on the show. He was criticizing Ben Simmons. More criticism, though, dropped on Doc Rivers for even playing Ben Simmons in critical situations in the playoffs, which led to the ouster of the Philadelphia 76ers. He then went after Kevin Durant, to which Durant slammed Scottie Pippen right back on Twitter about, as you mentioned, Shannon, his not going back into the game when he was a Chicago Bull because he didn't like the coaching substitutions. But apparently, and this is really stupid if you ask me, Shannon, he's going after Charles Barkley, which is going to make TNT tonight even more must-see TV. I mean, tonight I got to watch Texas versus Virginia, but you've also got Atlanta, Milwaukee tonight, 7:30 on TNT. This is at TMZ Sports right now at TMZSports.com. The headline: Scottie Pippen says Charles Barkley is fake tough. He never fought a black man without having refs around, which is crazy. And it says, here's the backstory. Pippen and Barkley played together on the Houston Rockets for one season back in 1999, but Pippen left and trashed Barkley on the way out, calling him fat and a loser. Barkley demanded an apology and said he would get arrested for murder if Pippen refused. Then it says, fast forward to 2021, Pippen still hasn't apologized and has no plans to do so. When GQ asked Scottie Pippen about Barkley's arrested for murder comment, Pippen went off, quote, I wish he would have went through with it, Pippen said. I never apologized to him, but I'll tell you what, he only got arrested for throwing some little white guys out of a window. I ain't never seen him fight a black man unless there were referees around. And he said, quote, Barkley plays his role like he's tough. I don't know anybody he's whooped. Go back and check his record. Did I apologize to him? I told him to get me the hell out of there. That's what I recall. Wow. Scottie Pippen and Charles Barkley, Shannon, not exactly sharing a lot of love for one another all these days later.
Scottie Pippen has always been relative because who he's been attached to.
Yeah.
Right. And I think his publicist, smart or not, it certainly is causing a stir because he's only going after Ben Simmons trending, Doc Rivers trending, Kevin Durant knows they'll always get a response. Chuck will always respond and will respond on a national platform. So I'm
You're not
kind
that
of
guy, pal. Trust me, you're not that.
Yeah,
guy.
I kind of find it hilarious. Of like, who are you fighting? Like, what you're trying to sell bourbon here? The most relevant thing that happened to you in the last 10 years has been you appearing on Michael Jordan's documentary series, and they basically called you a little. Not going to say it on the radio, and
right.
Well, do you, bro? But I mean, we all see we all see through it.
Yeah, it's interesting, Shannon, and maybe that's what's going on here. That maybe his agent or his publicist or his handlers or his partners in the bourbon company. Because if you think about it, if Scottie Pippen said nice things about Ben Simmons or Doc Rivers or Kevin Durant or Charles Barkley, that would not make headlines. Certainly not in today's culture and atmosphere. But you attack them, and I think it's ridiculous. Pretty much, but if you think about it, here we are at 8:43 in the morning in South and Central Texas talking about Scottie Pippen attacking Barkley and KD and Simmons and Doc. if you attack them, you get attention, you get headlines, people start talking about you. Maybe that is the master plan here.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, like this morning, I mentioned I saw the quotes that were discussing the Ben Simmons, the Doc Rivers cover, but I didn't realize that I didn't look at the actual full article in full, so I just saw the quotes. So didn't know that this was for bourbon, right? And somehow they're talking about everything but bourbon, and so everyone's asking the question, okay, why was he in this interview anyway? And then it leads you back to his product. You're like, okay. So I don't know.
And I must pose the question, Shannon. I know he was very good, but who would Scottie Pippen be without Michael Jordan? If he did not
Scott,
land,
he'd just be Scott.
yeah. And he, I'm trying to think of a player from that era that was good, didn't win a title, not great. I'm sure somebody will come to me, but I just, it's a little pathetic. And you're right, because of the Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance. You know, might take away coming after those 10 episodes for Pippen was he had issues. And the biggest thing was he wasn't a good teammate when he needed to be. When they really needed him, he was very slow to come back, very Kawhi-like, very slow to come back from a surgery when they really needed him, when he seemed like he was ready to go. And when they needed him to go back into a ball game, he refused in a key situation because he didn't like the way the coach was, doing his roster and substitutions. So, Scottie Pippen not looking too delightful these days.
No, Team Chuck. Chuck in this corner.
And man, I'm going to have just a hard time tonight, whether or not, watching Texas, take on Mississippi State at 6, and I still want to see what and you're right. Charles Barkley will respond. Charles isn't going to let this go.
Yeah, and I'm sure Shaq will bring it up for him.
Yeah.
But if you need to debate on what to watch, I would say watch Texas baseball because it'll immediately trend whatever Chuck says.
True.
You'll find that easily.
That's a great point. That video will be right up there on Twitter as soon as he says it. And the other, again, though, just real quick, the Atlanta-Milwaukee game tonight, we keep talking about it. Milwaukee's got to win. I mean, they're at home. The previous series against Brooklyn, you lost 2 on the road. You came back home and then won your 4 out of 5 to take that series. I don't think the way Atlanta's playing, if Atlanta took a 2-0 lead back to Atlanta, and I discounted Milwaukee and Mike Budenholzer before in the previous series against Brooklyn, but I think I would discount them again today.
Yeah, PJ Tucker needs to be better at locking down Trae Young. If they can do that, they're going to have a much greater chance of getting a win here tonight. I think that's number 1 for them.
Now, meanwhile, of course, the big focus for a lot of our listeners, the College World Series, as we talked about, Texas in action tonight. That game scheduled for 6 o'clock. It is on the 4-letter network. You can take a look at it. Now, yesterday, Shannon, you were very confident that Texas would beat Virginia, and indeed they did after the 3-hour and 39-minute rain and lightning delay. Texas beat Virginia 6-2. Mississippi State, a whole nother animal. They won over Texas on Sunday to open up this College World Series 2-1 with 21 strikeouts. You got to beat Mississippi State not once but twice to advance to next week's best-of-3 finals. How you feeling about the Longhorns going into tonight's game?
I feel pretty good. I'm glad we got that game in last night. A doubleheader would not have made me feel great. But we talked about it throughout the season, like when the Bucks and the Saints, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. Mississippi has beaten Texas twice, and Texas has a lot of momentum now coming off of that win last night, whereas Mississippi State has been sitting. I think Texas has a lot of swagger too, but going into this game, I feel pretty confident now. If we're sitting here asking me if I think we can do it twice in a row, I don't feel as confident. We'll see how I feel after game 1, but let's do one game at a time, Texas. Get this win tonight, and then we can focus up on the next.
Well, and talk about momentum, if Texas got the win tonight, you would have to think momentum would be in their favor. I mean,
sure.
Certainly be on a roll, and you would have gotten into Mississippi State's head. Part of what I'm thinking might be going on tonight for Mississippi State. Yes, they know they're playing with house money tonight, so I think you're a little less focused. I mean, maybe you press a little less, and that could help you if you come in loose. But if Texas walks away with the win tonight, and Mississippi State now realizes that on Saturday they would have an elimination game after things were looking so good for them all week long, that could change things a bit. And somebody tweeted out all of Texas's games dating back to the Super Regional.
Yes.
And other than that Mississippi State game, Texas has played very well and put up a lot of runs. And in that 2-1 loss to Mississippi State, one more swing of the bat that would have gone your way, and maybe you're in extra innings 2-2 in that one. So hopefully they play their game tonight.
Mississippi State's pitching has been unbelievable, and like you said, because they're playing with house money tonight, maybe they don't throw out their best man and then they save them just in case they need them on Saturday. So we'll see. Hopefully at this point Texas has got their number a little bit better as far as being able to hit off of them. And we don't need to make it a new College World Series record at 22 strikeouts. We don't need that.
Right. Yeah, that has only happened once before, and that was on Sunday. Hopefully it doesn't happen again tonight, or if there is a game for Texas on Saturday, hopefully it doesn't happen then. Our poll question, Shannon asked, and of course the College World Series is on the viewing menu of you, me, and a lot of people. We asked which major sporting event are people interested in, and we got an answer to that one thus far this morning.
Can you give it to me? I don't have it after the studio change I made today. I don't have my
I have it up here. It's overwhelming. So we asked, which weekend sporting event are you most interested in? The College World Series, Major League Baseball, Astros on a roll, they won 11 in a row, the NBA playoffs, or other. You tell us what you're going to be watching. The overwhelming winner, College World Series at 58%. NBA playoffs 18%, some other sporting event 15%, Major League Baseball 9% in the single digits. Even though the Astros are on a roll, nobody really locked into Major League Baseball, at least among people voting in our poll.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be watching the College World Series for sure. And a lot of people I saw were mentioning the Tour de France. People don't actually watch that, do they?
I've never. When Lance Armstrong
Are you kidding me?
sort of like on the final day, might tune in, but dude's riding bikes through
see him
France.
go down the Champs-Elysees, but who's watching that? You're lying. You're lying.
Yeah.
You're lying.
Come on. Please. So go Astros. Astros, if they win today, that would equal the franchise record of 12 in a row. They did it in 99 and 2018. So go Astros. Go Longhorns. And have yourself a great weekend. Shannon Salty Sweeney, spectacular week. We'll do this again on Monday.
You as well, sir.
Why the heck not?
Have a
Dave
good weekend.
Taylor, thank you, sir. Great job.
Thank you. I'll be here Monday.
We'll be here Monday. We'll do the whole thing all over again Monday. And hopefully the Longhorns will be advancing to a 3-game finale, maybe in Vanderbilt. I forget who the other team is, but we'll find out. Our thanks to James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And of course, Coach A, Paul Alexander. Enjoy your weekend. Austin FC in action on Sunday night at Columbus against the Columbus Crew. Check that one out on TV or at a sports bar. Good way to do that one. For Shannon Salty Sweeney and Dave Taylor. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. Enjoy your sports programming. Dan Patrick and the Minions are coming your way next. You've been listening to the Chris Duel Show. Adios, amigos. Woo! See y'all later.